I recently dug up my old New Super Mario Bros. For Nintendo DS game because I was bored and the mini games on this are unbeatable. No phone app could ever compare. Satisfying. After a couple rounds of the mini games, I was like, you know, since we're already here, might as well play the main thing. Very happy and maybe a bit unreasonably proud to report that I completed it. The whole thing. Every single level, every single coin, every single secret exit, all the mini Mario parts, which was the hardest part. And now I got 3 stars next to my name. Figuratively, because I don't think you can actually put your name in on this game. Thank you. Thank you. I'm here all week. Name's Tommy, welcome to System Error. So now that I've been released from the grips of nostalgia, I'm ready to base a project entirely on the smallest part of this game. There's these mushroom houses that pop up, and because I've spent weeks now completing this game, I've been in a lot of them. And when you enter one of them, they have this really cool background that stood out to me, and I want to make the arch with the star on top sort of 3D in real life. What's the point, you ask? You know, when you start thinking too hard about things, everything comes down to nihilism. So let's not and just get started. I think I'm okay with the back just being flat. I have like a couple options. I'm just gonna cut out the basic shape out of cardboard, put like newspaper on the front, go over it with paper mache, maybe, probably make it 3D. And also I need to decide on a color. Not right now, but eventually. Because depending on the color of the house, backgrounds also have different colors. And then there's a special house that pops up once you've completed all the levels in the game, which I have, by the way, all of it. I don't know if I've mentioned that. I had a preference, but then the blue one swayed me towards the end, and now I don't know. Luckily, I still have time to figure that out. Also, need to think about the size. That's probably too big. About this size might be good, actually. Alright, basic shape cut. Poorly made template. Made from a photo I took on my phone off the camera screen of the photo that I took off the DS screen. You can imagine the quality. Basic guideline, and then I took that off and made sure everything was like level and at right angles. So cut out a bunch of small cardboard pieces. These, for example, are gonna go on like the column. The column part, like this, basically mold some cardboard strips on top of it. It'll make sense, don't worry. That's gonna give me some hollow parts at the base because I think I might just put like a little bit of sand in there, white at the bottom, you know, so ideally it's gonna stand like flat. I don't know, it just feels nicer. Like in the end, picking it up, it doesn't feel like a 5-year-old's craft project made of glue and air, like the adult version. Still a lot of air, but with added thought put into it. Another thing that I realized while I made the template, the original from the game, the stripes on the columns go in the same direction. I think it's supposed to give the illusion that this is gonna go on and then there's gonna be other arches, like presumably going all around the room. Makes sense that they're all the same, but I'm just making the arch and I think it will look better going the opposite direction. So one's going like this and one's going like that. That's gonna make it look more cohesive, self-contained, and like one thing. Direct your eye towards the middle of it. I'm using a lot of big words here just to describe me making the Super Mario Bros. DS background arch out of paper mache. It'd be like that sometimes, I suppose. Alright, so I've mostly been cutting up cardboard to get to this point. Columns all done, nice and round. It did take me an almost embarrassingly long time to figure out the angle I had to use to cut these. It was a whole ordeal, and I'm still not 100% sure I did it geometrically right. They do fit for the most part. Originally, I was just planning on crumpling up newspaper, gluing it on, and then just covering it, which arguably would have been a lot easier. But would it have been perfect? No. Would that have irked me forever? Yes. So here we are. I did cut these little flaps into those and leave those open below one of the parts of the inner structure. I can fill these lower bits up with sand and then just put paper mache over those in order to continue to make things perfect, because I just can't help myself up here. Still cutting out strips of cardboard because of, you know, the wavy middle layer. You can just fold them in some parts really easily. Basically all just be hollow up here. That's more work now, but once I get to the paper mache part, it's gonna be less work. Purposely gonna leave gaps between all of these parts. Covering it with paper mache is just naturally gonna give me little dips in between them to make them look like separate stones put together. And here's what we've currently got. Completed cardboard base. I'm just gonna do like a first layer of paper mache up here to cover these gaps, and down here definitely so the sand doesn't come back out. This is gonna be a fun shot, isn't it? Since I've closed all the gaps down here and most of the major other ones, I should put in the sand, which means I first have to find the sand. Struggle every time. Would you look at that? I actually deposited some in here from when I last needed it for a project. Sometimes I'm well and truly ahead of my future self, and it surprises me every time. Alright, it's looking good. We're almost at the painting stage. Went over everything with a very thin layer of toilet paper just to give it some texture. Go over that one more time because there's some tiny little holes left. And I still need to make the star, but that's a whole separate thing. First, columns. Don't need much. I just want like a teeny tiny bit of a 3D moment. I've been a bit unsure on how I'm gonna do that. I thought about just like pressing it in as the paper mache dries or whatever. I think I'm gonna go back to the brown packing paper and I'm just gonna cut strips that I'm gonna then wrap around, look at it from the side. You're gonna see like a little bit. And it's gonna work well as a guideline for painting. Actually, I've come to realize after a couple failed attempts that using grit paper would make my life a lot easier. I think it's about the same in strength. And my inner Adrian Monk is having an absolute field day figuring this out. And then also I have all these straight lines making the spacing of the stars even and make sure they're oriented the same way. Also, luckily, no need to worry about cutting these out with an X-Acto knife. Cut a slit, cut them out, and then glue it down. Then you can't see where I cut into it anymore, so I'm not totally going insane over here. Also, regarding the star, I've had an idea. You know, the best thing about making things yourself is that you can add any feature you want. What I found is this. I'm sure we've all seen these, or else your childhood has been very different from mine, and I don't know if that's good or bad. In this case, I'm gonna go for bad. Plastic stars that glow in the dark. Except for a couple individual ones, none of these ever actually played a big role in my childhood. Didn't have like a bedroom wall or ceiling or something covered in them. Selfishly, no one gave all of them to me to just run wild with, which I would have. Anyways, they're in my possession now, better late than never. Unfortunately, bit too small for my purposes this time around. I know. I am as saddened by these news as you are. Better believe I'm gonna find a project to use many of those on. Could still make the star glow, because do I have glow-in-the-dark paint? No. Why would I ever behave like a professional? What I do have is glow-in-the-dark nail polish. I had that forever, only used it once, was very annoyed by it come nighttime, which is ironic and defeats the purpose, I think, and never used it on my nails again, but have used it on craft projects. It holds up very well. Actually, I used that nail polish on this fella up here, always in the background of my intros, on this shelf. Made him in high school art class, and his guitar, his heart, and his eyes actually glow in the dark. And in fact, that still amuses me as a full-grown adult, so we're gonna make use of it here. So now that everything's been covered, I can move on to the last step, which is the star. I already made it. Tried to give it that rounded, cushiony shape that I'm imagining by cutting a bigger one as a base and a smaller one to put on top, and then covering it with paper mache, but this time I used newspaper because I think it will be nice if it has a different texture to the rest. Also decided that I'm not gonna do like the little star indents that are in some of these. We're gonna have the big star up here, so I think that's enough. I've achieved what I wanted. I think that's done something. It's only really gonna show once I've painted it all one color. Hopefully there will be at least remnants of shapes. Otherwise, it will all have been pointless and I'm gonna cry, but thinking positive for now. For my last trick, I'm gonna position and glue on this star up top and fill any gaps around it if I have to. Time for some paint. Get to use some of these for the first time. Got a bunch of acrylic paint for Christmas last year because I am constantly running out because I only ever buy like the tubes. I'm actually really excited because I haven't really painted anything in a long time. And this should be pretty simple. There's potential for fun. Base color, I'm going for the mint, darker shade, a lighter shade, and then we should be good. Yoshi's not even in this game. Hang on, he is in the mini games. He's also the only amiibo I have. The absolutely adorable Woolly World version. Say that 10 times fast. I should replay that game next. I have started playing the Mario Bros. Wii version since starting this project, so I cannot promise that something like this isn't gonna happen again in the foreseeable future. I'm very happy that I went for the mint color. Just harmonizes with the star very well. It's a good thing I have so much acrylic paint now because I did need a lot of it to get the mint color absolutely right. Somehow, I don't even know if that's true, but in my mind, that used to be a very popular shade of plastic for toys, the girl-coded ones at least, in the early 2000s. Exhibit A, fill that with water and then you push this little pump button and then these little cats float all around and try to put them down in little spots where they can sit. Very much a sort of video game without the screen. But you do see that, right? You see my point? I also give it some very subtle highlights and shading. I was expecting having to paint a lot more of those on, but luckily the fact that, you know, this is 3D basically does most of that for me already. Who would have thought? The stripes showed up very well. The stars, not an insane amount, but it was definitely enough to know where each one had to go. Little bump there, that made it a lot easier to just paint and shade, you know. I also did the unnecessary step of painting the back. I did some little bricks down here to commemorate the background that's actually in here that I obviously cut out. Wholly unnecessary, but so fun. Leans against straight walls very well. Very happy with that. This wall is about as straight as the cast of the boys in the band, therefore no chance on demonstrating that on this one. And I absolutely love the glowing star feature, but it did take an insane amount of layers. I've also decided to put one of those plastic glowing stars up on the cork wall to represent this project. My genius master plan is that if I keep making projects where parts of them glow in the dark, I can keep putting up those stars on the cork wall in different places, and then subsequently, over time, this wall is gonna glow in the dark as well. And my inner child just really, really wants that. Couple things that glow in the dark in here, not just my old project guy. You better believe I was the coolest kid on the block with the glow in the dark dinosaur alarm clock. I was also the only kid on my block. But that's irrelevant. That's always the last thing I see before closing the door. Starry glow-in-the-dark wall is the dream. As for the stats, how long did this take? Approximately 2 episodes of Last Week Tonight, 3 episodes of Taskmaster season 14 and 15, 2 podcast episodes, 3 video essays, Star Wars The Phantom Menace, don't ask, 7 episodes of Shadowhunters. So I'm probably gonna go take a walk, look off into the distance for the first time in a couple days, breathe some fresh air, still smells like nail polish in here, touch some grass, rest my hands and wrists, because I'm probably gonna throw myself into the next project soon enough. See you then, rock on or whatever, bye!